Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Buy Box, the new name, or well, should I say, what is it? Formerly known as.
Yes.
Yes, as in, the old Prince, the artist, or the YouTube channel formerly known as Nevermind the Buy Box. So we're just waiting for a few people to come on. Oh, Matt, you need to paint that wall, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, no, it needs painting. Yeah, it's just what it was when we painted, it wasn't dry. The plaster wasn't dry. And it's been like a year now, so it probably really needs doing.
I honestly, I am that person. I'm that person that points stuff like that out, and it's really rude, and I shouldn't do it. And it's one of those things. I'm like, oh, you need to paint that wall, don't you?
Yeah, we literally do need to paint that wall.
Hi guys, hi Phil, hi Marta, good to see you. Inside joke. Phil, I got your voice notes this morning. Haven't had a chance to look through those yet, but I will do. Hi Florin, David, Phil, got another Phil that's joined us as well. Oh, two Phils in the house. Hello everyone, lots of people jumping on. Welcome guys. Claire's joined us as well. Hello. Oh, of course, we've got the other Facebook group as well. I was like, I've got some names coming in here and I don't know where they're coming from. So I'll just jump into that when I get a chance. But just wanted to say welcome, everyone. It's great to have you all here. Thank you for bearing with us over the last couple of weeks while we've rebranded. And I say that really loosely because all we've done is change one of the words.
I know.
What has taken you 3 weeks to rebrand one word, and you've kept all the colors exactly the same? We didn't want to take too much of a step away from our origins, essentially. But the thing is, as much as we loved the name, and it was a real heartache for me in particular as being the founder of Nevermind the Buy Box to move away from it. It's one of those things that obviously with the Hive and Be Stocked, we intend on expanding and going into different areas, and it's obviously something, it's a cult name essentially. So we thought it was time to think for the future, change things up a little bit. And we wanted a clear differentiation between what are our paid services and what are our services for everybody to enjoy, for those who choose, as they absolutely can, not to be part of the Hive or have any masterclasses or courses or anything, or any education that we sell, or Be Stocked, which will obviously be a standalone product at some point as well, or any coaching or anything that we may do in the future, which causes you to part with your hard-earned cash. We wanted a differentiation between the two, which meant two different brands. And it meant shutting down some of the other brands, like Ecom Inner Circle, which was the name of the original group. That is slowly going to be phased out this week. So you guys know that anything that is to do with Beyond the Buy Box is part of our education and information for everybody to enjoy. All we ask for is your company. We don't ask for anything back whatsoever, but anything that involves anything bee related, basically. Just think of the bees.
All the bees.
All the bees or anything like that does involve, a paid services. So there's a clear differentiation between the two, because there's nothing worse than tuning in and finding that you're just getting one big massive pitch. So we want to keep everything in Beyond the Buy Box pitch free, sales free, so you guys get to enjoy it, and not have to worry about. But guys, whilst we've got you, well, that does sort of happen anyway as well, but anyway, you get the idea. So we got Sean, we got Pat, we've got James, Ola, back at you. Josh has joined us as well. Debbie, David back from Dubai, still waiting to hear about how your trip was. That looked absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it looked amazing. So really looking forward to hearing all about that. I do need to jump into the other one, but the main thing was obviously just quickly catching you up on, obviously, whilst we've been away for the last couple of weeks, and why we've rebranded. You now know that. Hi David, welcome. You now know that. The main thing is, I actually feel, I could be wrong, and I could be, filled with a bit of self-importance here, but I actually feel in a period of time when people rely on this kind of live stream a little bit, we couldn't have done it at the worst time, because it just felt like
Yeah.
the Amazon sky is falling in for so many people at the moment. And normally, I think if we'd have had this, I'm not saying that we would have fixed it and made everything better and everything like that, but sometimes it's just that reassurance of understanding, like something that's happened in the market at the moment, which is all the ungating that's and we'll come on to that in a moment, but that's something that happens every year. And it is,
Yeah.
and it sucks and it's shit. And oh, sorry. And I don't know whether I can swear.
Now I
And
can't make it child friendly. Oh.
sorry, brother, I do apologize. And so it's something now that was slightly different this year, and we'll come on to that in a moment. But like I said, it's just having that reassurance of knowing of something that's happening and why it's happening as well. The generic thing, I see loads of people shouting about it, but I don't see anyone talking about why. Does anyone know why it's happened? And because for me, how can you build on something moving forward unless you know why something's happened? Because otherwise, to me, you're always feel like you're living in fear a little bit, which I know we all live in fear of Amazon. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking that away. But just seeing someone talking about something in a group and them saying, you do this, are you going to do this? You need to do this now within your business. Why? Do you understand why it's someone saying that? So that's, where I think that we've kind
Yeah.
of been missed, hopefully, I think, over the last couple of weeks, is because we do explain these things in a little bit more detail as to why it's happening. Now, I'm not, I am an Amazon guru, but I don't have a crystal ball. So I can only, base the information on either our own experiences or whether or not it's happened to us. And you know it's like an educated guess a lot of the time as well, because Amazon never comes out and fully tells us if something's going to happen and why it's happening. So, by working with a lot of people, which is what we do in the Hive, and the Facebook groups and the communities and things like that, we get a bit of an understanding of what's going on. Then we go away and we dissect it and we test things and we come back and we do it. So I wanted to have a discussion about that today, about why are some of the things happening and what you can kind of do about it if you need to do anything at all. So the main things we're going to be talking about today is the ungating hell that is going on in the US, which actually does look like it seems to have fixed itself anyway. But I just want to cover that anyway, because Matt, it is ungating season, and this is
Yes.
something that happens every year. So it's something to be aware of and you can protect yourself against for the future. I want to talk about the generic issue. And of course, I want to talk about the issue that we've seen in many Facebook communities about withholding of funds in different scenarios as well. So accounts being restricted. We are seeing a huge level of Section 3 deactivations at the moment, and again, for lots of different reasons. So it is going to be a happy clappy session today, I'm afraid. So said with lots of sarcasm, but like I said, if it just helps one person maybe protect themselves somewhat, you can never protect yourself 100% on Amazon. I think that's the first point.
Yes.
You can never protect yourself 100% on Amazon. But if it helps you by limiting loss, or putting yourself in a position that you can survive for a certain period of time, or something like that, that's what we're going to talk about today, essentially. So first things first, hello everyone. Hi Karina, hi Lucas, hi Jay. Phil, we are being overwhelmed by the Phils today. There seems to be, is it a national Phil convention or something? Because there are loads of Phils. It used to be a few years ago, we were overwhelmed by Luke's. I think now Phil is the name to be in the Amazon world. We've got Karen, we've got Neil. Loads of you are joining us as well. Matt Age as well. Hi, great to see you here. So yeah, post any comments as we go through as well. Post any questions. Just while Matt quickly talks about the, I'm just going to jump into the other Facebook group so I can get an idea of who's talking to us there. But Matt, why don't we start off talking about the ungating issue at the moment? Now, why don't we talk about the issue with ungating, and 'tis the season to get gated, right?
Yes,
So
this is
yeah,
it.
if we
Yeah.
start off with that.
I think this is a very common time of year. I think what we should do is just dial it back a bit, and I think the community as a
Impossible. I
whole,
can't dial anything back at all. Sorry.
the community as a whole, we have a perception. We look at it from a seller's perspective, and I think when you have time in this business, as we do, and some other sellers do, you sort of perception changes, and you start to understand that Amazon is not just dealing with sellers, it's dealing with brands, it's dealing with its own products, it's dealing with its customers. Remember, it's Amazon's customers, not your customers. And it's trying to keep everybody happy. Okay. Now, what that means is sometimes what a brand wants is not what you want, i.e., a brand wants to restrict people selling its product at Q4, which is the brand's most important time of year, particularly for toys and games and those kind of things. And Amazon's getting a lot of pressure put on it by these brands, probably legal lawsuits and all the rest of it, to implement this gating. And also, it wants to protect its customers from rogue sellers. Now, I imagine everybody in this community is a genuine seller, but there are rogue sellers around, and Amazon is trying to protect its customers from rogue sellers. So it's really important to understand that a lot of what's happening is not directed at you particularly. It's not a problem with you. And I think that's really important to understand. You may not have done anything wrong. You may not even done anything different from what you've been doing all year, but the situation around the circumstances has changed. So that's really important to get across. And once you kind of get that perception, you kind of think, I understand why Amazon's doing a few of these things, which it hasn't done all year. What does that mean for your business? Well, of course, it means that you're going to have challenges in Q4. Actually, Q4 is very highly profitable, but it also has a lot of challenges from gating, IP claims, and that kind of thing. And it's one of the reasons that I always say there's 12 months in a year. Don't put all your eggs in one basket in sense of putting all your eggs into Amazon, and then also don't put all your eggs into Q4, because there's 12 months in a year, and Q4 is a very good time of year to make sales, but is also a very difficult time of year to make sales. It's a very competitive time of year. A lot of new sellers enter the market at this time of year. A lot of new people come in. A lot of big brands start, locking down the brands, as we've just discussed. So it's a challenging time of year. And I think it's important to understand that this isn't a new thing. This has been going on for decades. I think COVID sort of, again, suppressed a lot of this because people were a bit more calm. The brand's a bit more calm. People were more focused on sort of the COVID side of the business, and they're not as focused on the IP side. And now we're basically into completely normal trading conditions. This is exactly the same trading conditions as you would have seen in 2018, 2019, 2017. This is not unusual. Big brand gate-ins just before Q4. One that happened to us, we used to sell a lot of Xbox products. In 2017, Xbox gated its entire catalog from November until January. And this isn't a new thing. This hasn't just suddenly started happening. And I think we'll go on to talk about de-risking your business. And I think it's really important that we start looking at ways to de-risk your business so that when these things happen, not if, but when, because something will happen to everybody at some point, it's a bump rather than a car crash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with Matt there. And, got a few other people, Simon, saying it as well. It's like I said, it's not personal. Just to reiterate what Matt said there, it's not personal. I see so many comments about how Amazon is ruining my business, and I get it. It's hard not to hate them. In that period of time, I was saying it with someone beforehand as well. It's very hard not to hate them when it is your business because you're taking it personally. But it is what we need to take into account is Amazon is always going to do that, because they don't look at you individually. They don't look at it and say, what can I do today to ruin Matt Wright's business? I know he's just got a bunch of Xbox stuff in. Let's gate that for him. You know, in particular, it's the majority of it is unprejudiced, and it is bot related, it's algorithm related. If they see that there is been an increase, what this round of gating and what Q4 round of gating is. So just to give you a bit of an understanding, Simon's hit the nail on the head there. What tends to happen is Amazon will shoot first, probably not even ask questions later, and then bury the body. They don't care. They will protect their customers at all costs. So if they see something happen in a certain area, and this is the maths of it, a certain percentage or a certain area or a certain demographic in the business, they just shut it down. It's as simple as that. It could be you will see listings getting pulled because one person has had a refund and they've put a certain word in there. A whole listing will get pulled and taken down because the customer, on voice of the customer, has maybe said something like it was wrong delivery, and maybe Amazon picked up the word wrong, seen it as wrong product, and therefore tanked the whole listing for everyone. You cannot run a business the size of Amazon on individual assessment. Unfortunately not. So what happens is with something like this, when it regates, gatings occur from sales. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware of that. Gatings generally occur, random gatings occur from sales. Gatings can also be triggered obviously by brands and things like that. But random gatings come from sales. So if they see a big increase, this is why we get gatings in Q4, is because all of a sudden sales start increasing. And then what happens is the panic button sets in. Should all these people be selling these products now that there's a higher level of demand for them? Should they all be doing that? So what will happen is the algorithm will say, remove anyone that doesn't have this, and this. So that's why you also see certain sellers being left on listings and certain sellers being removed from listings. Again, they haven't looked at me and Matt on a listing and they prefer the way Matt looks to me, and they've removed him from that point of view. It will be down to the trust credibility score from Amazon in the back end. So if you have something that's, there are invisible marks that are against you that you cannot see, that only Amazon can see. So, and it's a tick box exercise, unfortunately. So this happens every Q4, the ungating. Now, specifically, there's been an issue where, and this happened about 2 months ago again as well, where all of a sudden, randomly, loads of people were gated on a load of their inventory in Q4 standard. So let's talk about the standard first of all. If it happens as a standard, no other way around it, you need to get invoices for that particular, either it be a product. They're generally, this one seemed to be at an ASIN level. So again, top tip here, if it's at an ASIN level, I think it's more likely to be a glitch. If it's at a category or a subcategory or a brand level, it's more likely not to be a glitch. Okay. So what happened on this one? It was at an ASIN level, and it turned out it looks like it's a glitch. That's what it looks like at the moment. So people have woken up 48 hours later, which is what happened 2 months ago again. And it seems like people are now able to sell, and inventory has become unstranded. I'm not saying this is going to happen for everyone. I've seen it few people online this morning. So fingers crossed at the moment, until someone tells me otherwise, we're assuming this is what happened a couple of months ago and it's a glitch. If it is a regating that we see through a sales volume increase, which we see during Q4 or busy periods of time in certain areas, then if we see that, then I'm afraid you just have to go through the ungating process. What it means is Amazon has moved the goalpost, and it sucks. And I'm sorry, but never invest more than you're prepared to lose. So you will have to invest a little bit more in getting yourself ungated in that particular area. So invoices from a legitimate source will generally unlock that level of ungating hell. So that is different from the other one. So yes, Ahmed's saying there, Gavin got gated on Random Masons a few days ago, stock worth 50k. Exactly. So from what I can see on this one so far, if it's not giving you the option to ungate, hopefully it is a glitch, but it may take a few days for that to come through. I'm seeing a few people are now okay to sell on those again, so I'd advise him to have a look and see what's happened, whether it's opened up for him again. But like I said, we can't guarantee it. It may just be Amazon being assholes, and then unfortunately it will come down to the protection side of things or risk mitigation. I think Colin Smith perfectly said it. You never own your Amazon business, and it's so true. And never invest more than you're prepared to lose. If Amazon decide, and like I said, bearing in mind, scaling it back to what we said, it's not personal, but if a change is made in a business, unfortunately, it's something, whether it's fair or not, in that specific scenario, if that person's locked out, that's something that can happen at any time. So how can you mitigate that risk? And then I'll pass that over to you, Matt, because you're our risk mitigation expert.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I've been talking about this for quite a few years now, since really I sort of started in the communities. So it's not a new thing for me to sort of, because I went through a suspension, Q4, funnily enough, what a surprise, 2017. We had all our eggs in one basket, and it was horrendous. It took us 2 weeks to get unsuspended, lost all our Christmas sales, cash flow issues. I'm sure most people are aware of this. So the things we've done is we swore we were going to de-risk the business. We can't mitigate the risk because it's impossible unless I was to buy Amazon and control Amazon. I can't control what Amazon will do, and I can't control what a lot of our brands will do either. They may decide to shut us down, if they don't want to sell their products. But it's really important that you mitigate your business, and there's a number of ways you can do this. So multiple market. So looking on Amazon here, multiple marketplaces is a way to significantly de-risk your business. If you sell in the UK, Europe, and the US, you've got essentially 7 accounts in Europe, one in the US, and one in the UK. So that's 10 Amazon accounts. So you're spreading your risk across 10 different accounts, not just one account. So if you have a payment issue in the US, some issues affect your whole account, but a lot of sort of minor issues, IP claims, registration issues, sort of like addresses and things like that, usually may only affect one of your accounts. So you still have cash flow from other accounts making sales in those marketplaces. So simply and it doesn't necessarily mean that with these, you have to have huge performance with, say, for Europe, for example. You don't necessarily have to have huge amounts of sales going through Europe, but you've got money coming in and you've got an option where you can switch your focus. If you have a problem with the UK gets suspended, right, well, we move our stock into Europe and we focus on the EFN side, or maybe we send new stuff into Pan EU and all that kind of stuff. So again, Pan EU, for example, is a great way to mitigate risk. Not only will it expand your good business, but it will mitigate risk. Then, of course, you've got other platforms. So eBay is a great risk mitigator. You've got an completely separate platform that provides additional income. And it means if your Amazon account is suspended, then you can use that platform to create revenue that will then help your business to maintain cash flow and while you get the suspension sorted. Same with a Shopify store. Again, you're building a brand, you're de-risking it even further because you're taking it away from a marketplace business to your own business. Now, Shopify again has risks. I'm not going to say that Shopify can't shut you down, because they can. I'm not saying you can't get IP claims on a Shopify website or legal cases, because you can, but it is significantly de-risking your business away from Amazon having multiple platforms. And there's other platforms, Etsy, OnBuy. Now, I'm not saying you should do all these platforms, and I'm not saying you should necessarily aim to do lots of money through these platforms, but simply by having these platforms as a backup, will enable you to then switch your focus, sell your stock you've got in your warehouse or stock that's coming in or just new stock through the platforms and generate cash flow. And what it does is it takes the business from being, I'm going to go out of business, to this is going to be a really rubbish month. And there's a huge difference between having a bad month and making no profit, making a small loss, to completely going out of business because you've got no money coming in, you can't pay your staff, you can't pay your bills, and you can't pay your loans and all that kind of thing. So that's my first piece of advice, to de-risk your business.
Yeah, can I just add on to that? Actually, I just want to we can't stop some of this stuff that's happening on Amazon. No one can protect you against that. But as just a little add-on, you've got to expect it. So when I teach people to sell bundles, one of the things I do is teach them how to walk through the process of that bundle is being used. Why would someone buy it? How do they use it? That type of thing. It's the same in business. When you make something like, let's use the example of 50 grand's worth of stock. If I was to make that order, I would want to know I would want to walk through the process of not just what happens if I sell it, which is what most people do. I'm going to order 50 grand's worth of products, so therefore I'm going to make 10 grand profit. Woohoo! You need to mitigate risk by looking strategically at all of the options. Amazon is like being on the stock market, guys. I can't keep telling you all of this so much all the time. Well, I will, because I will. This is like the stock market. There is nothing guaranteed. It's fluid. Things change, goalposts move, all of this type of thing. You have to walk through every single scenario as if the worst can happen, not only if just the best can happen, which is what we're all guilty of doing. And by the way, Matt and I don't sit here on our pedestals preaching down at everyone and saying, we're perfect, we do this, we do that. Well, we've been in business long enough that there's a good chance that one of us has been through, something like this, and we've learned from it. If you're me, I've probably been through it 3 or 4 times and then finally learned from it. It is part of that. This is part of business. It's part of sustainability and longevity in business. So please don't think, I don't want anyone to think we're patronizing or being condescending at all. But you have to go through each scenario. If I spend 50 grand, from great, I'm going to get 10 grand profit, all the way down to, if I lost that whole 50 grand, what impact would that have on my business? Okay. And there's lots of variables in between that. Personally, it feels like I'm picking on Gavin here, and it's not. It's only because that example came up. Personally, I would not spend 50 grand on business unless I had an exit strategy for it. Sorry, 50 grand on stock unless I had an alternative option to sell. Now, that option would be, if it was in the US, then it would be a liquidation option in the US. If it was, in the UK, then if I'm ordering that level of stock, then I would negotiate what happens if I were to lose my facility to sell, potentially with a wholesaler. Is there an option maybe that I can return this stock back to you? Is that something here? Yeah, you may get laughed at, but you don't ask, you don't get. It's as simple as that. As Matt has said, if I get shut down in the UK, can I send this stock to Europe just to get my cost of goods back, to get my 50 grand back? If I have no other options, do I have my eBay in good standing? Is it ready to go that I can move quickly on this? Like I said, there's always got to be an alternative. And the answer is, if you do not have those alternatives and all you're looking at is the 10 grand profit that you're going to make out of it, then there is a chance that you could get burned. So like I said, it's almost a bit like gambling, a little bit in a way, that you have to take, the smooth with the rough. And like Matt said, worst case scenario, you have to have a sustainable enough business that you just turn around and say, right, this isn't going to break me. It just means I'm going to have a crap month, or I'm going to have a crap quarter, and we need to suck it up in our business. But, like I said, we've talked about this before as well. If you have a sustainable business that's here for the longevity, well, if you lose 50 grand within your business and your business is making profit, that is not 50 grand that you're not going to have to pay to the HMRC. Sorry, not tax advice. But do you see what I mean? It becomes a loss within your business. it's a recoverable loss in your business.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. If your business is sustainable, it's something you. There's the thing. If your business goes out of business because of it, that's it. That money's gone. Whereas if you survive this, then you can make $5,000 a month back for the next 10 months, and therefore you've made the 50 grand back. And on the 11th month, you're back in profit. You know, that's the difference. That's the key difference here. Is you've gone from, you know, devastation to survivability. And you know, always we talk about cash flow a lot in the Hive and things like that. We always say, you know, when you're making credit decisions, it's about survivability, not profitability. You know, if you can't afford to pay your credit card bill back, well, that isn't the end of the world, because yes, you're going to pay loads of interest, but it's not going to bankrupt you. You know, but charge cards, that could impact your credit and that could bankrupt you. So it's really important, you know, you manage your credit properly, you manage your cash flow properly, and then a lot of these issues are just issues and annoyances rather than devastating effects.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna play devil's advocate there. I mean, it's still devastating. I don't want anyone to. We don't make light of it, you know. With our suspension earlier in the year. And by the way, you know, I don't know if Gavin's part of the group. I really hope it gets resolved for him. You know, it's awful. It's just an awful situation, and I hate it. And I sometimes think that it sounds like we're justifying what Amazon do a little bit. It's not. It's just, like I said, if one person just walks away from this, you know, we're just thinking about a consequence just a little bit more. That's the aim, essentially. It's not to you know, it's not to put anyone down or do anything or whatever is. It's definitely something that, like I said, we don't offer the prettiest advice. In some cases it's not sexy. You know, it's not, you know, we're not sat in our Lambos doing it, but it's something that it's really, really important to suck it up. And if you don't want to hear it, then you may not be around in business, to be perfectly honest. If you can't take hearing it, you know, you may not be around for a long time. It's that backup plan. Absolutely.
And the thing about Amazon as well, in my experience, is everything's resolvable. You know, everything's resolvable. Even the worst suspensions I've seen people come back from, but it takes time. You know, it might take a month, it might take 2 months, maybe even 3 months. And it's being able to survive that 3 months to get your account back. That's what we really want to see. I think, like you say, we're not trying to dress it down, as it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable what Amazon does to sellers.
Absolutely not. It's disgusting.
Being in the business for 10 years plus, it's just something that happens, and we don't brush it off, because it is devastating and it's horrendous. But you think this is the attitude you have to have. You know, if you cry in a corner every time something happens, it isn't going to make it go away. You know, you've got to focus dealing with the problem, and like I say, de-risk your business, mitigate the risk, so that you're not sat there in devastation in the corner.
I know. Well, I think
it's too late then, isn't it? When it happens, like the eBay thing, it's too late to start an eBay account once you've been suspended.
You just have to. Yeah, I think again, let's reiterate that. You know, like I said, you know, you are going to be devastated. It's as simple as that. But what you have to learn from it. So this day one, you are back on track. So, you know, we're not even saying during the period of time where things are going bad to try and, you know, plan for the future. Then there's no point, because your mind is clouded to be able to do that at that point. There's no point trying to plan for the future while you're still in the poop, to be perfectly honest, because your judgment is clouded. Wait until you're back out of it and then put those things in place. And you know what? Be safe in the knowledge that it is going to happen again. It is, that you have to work on that basis. It is going to happen again. So therefore, hopefully that will be a motivation enough for you to be able to put some of these things in place. And there's no magic bullet, unfortunately.
No.
You know, it's not like you do this on Amazon and you do this. But, you know, Mark's joined us, Mark Penn. He'll come on and say that there is a magic bullet, but he's at a much different level to the rest of us. So answer my messages. Anyway, I hope you had a lovely holiday, Mark. I think that signals, now that you're back, time to appear on Beyond the Buy Box, definitely. So yeah, play by the rules, absolutely. You know, when it comes down to it, that's what I think, that's what we're saying. You know, that's definitely what we're saying. Obviously, but everything is resolvable on Amazon for the relentless, but it may not be to your time scale. That's the most important. I've seen someone come back from a suspension. It's taken them 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years to come back from a suspension, but they didn't give up. And it was, you know, they didn't give up. So you have to badger them. I think personally, I think that you have to badger them in order to get back. So I love that, Cindy. Those nice clear rules on Amazon. Exactly. This is, you know, and that's what we can only give on our, you know, on our opinion for sure. But yeah, start thinking about every time you make those kind of bigger decisions. I'm not talking about if you buy 3 packs of Tetley tea from Tesco and send them into Amazon. Don't sit there and mull over the fact of what impact it could have on your business and things like that. But you know, we've all done it. Those big decisions that we make in our business that you know, that are out of the ordinary of what we do in our business. You know, think about those and what impact it could have. But most importantly, get comfortable with having the conversation. If the tap is switched off, what am I going to be able to drink? Essentially, what position does that put me in if the tap gets switched off? Have that conversation with you. It's not an easy conversation to have with yourself because it takes you to such a negative place. And we always say, stay positive, do this, do that. But you've got to have that conversation with yourself. If you cannot have that conversation with yourself, quite frankly, you're just living in denial.
Yes, absolutely. But there's a really good thing you've said about de-risking again. Even from a very simplistic point of view, not going too heavy on stock on one particular line, unless
Yeah.
you've got kind of brand approval in terms of you're working directly with the brand. Keeping it small, regular orders, and also if you do buy big, don't send it all in. You know, if you've
Yeah,
got a warehouse,
absolutely.
send in say 100 pieces. If you've got 1,000 pieces, let's say you have to buy 1,000 pieces because some people do to get the price. Send 100 in, sell out, then send another 100 in. Don't send 1,000 in because then that's all your stocks in Amazon's warehouse. You know, and then you can't. It makes it difficult to do anything else with. Where you've still got 900 pieces where you could sell them to another seller if you got suspended or something happened. You could sell them on eBay. So many options, and it's again simple risk mitigation, and more lines reduces your risk because you're selling more products, you're selling more brands. You're therefore less likely to be impacted by one brand gating because brand gating is going to happen a lot this time of year. If your catalog's made up 50% of, I know, L'Oreal, for example, L'Oreal say stopping Amazon sellers or Amazon do a deal with L'Oreal, 50% of your stock's stuck. So multiple brands is de-risking.
Yeah, it's old school advice, but shallow and wide. You know, that's what you've got to do. Let's talk about that 50 grand you know, for a second again. You know, that's not going to be 100 units. Well, I mean, it might be. I don't know. But I'm just saying, can you imagine? Albeit, I hope it's fixed now because I think it's a glitch. I think it's a glitch. But can you imagine how annoyed, even though Amazon caused it, Amazon is going to be with 50 grand's worth of probably thousands of units, dead stock, sat in their FBA thing, because knowing Amazon, they've probably done it so you can't remove the stranded inventory either. You know, from that point of view, they've probably done it from that as well. So can you imagine, like I said, the trust credibility on score on Amazon, never stock more than 30 days unless you have a solid agreement in place. But you shouldn't really be stocking more than 30 days worth of stock in an Amazon fulfillment center anyway, because Amazon don't want you to. It's part of IPI, it's part of the restock limits, it's part of your metrics on Amazon. They don't really want you keeping more than 30 to 60 days stock. If they do and you're not selling it, they start to penalize you. So I wouldn't go beyond that anyway. Drip feed it in, as Matt has said, you know, drip feed that stock in, buy all the stock, absolutely. But if something goes wrong with the first 100 units, then at least you're in a position where you can turn around and say, go back to the supplier, look, this has happened. I'm in a bad situation here. What is it? Can we do? You've got options. You know, can I send it to a different marketplace? Can I do this? Can I do that? It comes down to the basic advice of not putting all your eggs in one basket. You know, that's essentially what it comes down to as well. So that's that side of it. I just want to talk about the restriction of payment just before we move on, because I definitely want to make sure that we covered the generic issue as well. Like I said, this was going to be a lot of information in this one. So let's move on to, we've seen, and Ahmed was on the comments a moment ago. I'm not sure if he's still watching. Ahmed's a fantastic Amazon community leader, and you know, has been hit by a really rough circumstance on Amazon where, due to what we believe is a complaint, has had all of his funds withheld from a marketplace and is unable to disperse. Now, hopefully Ahmed won't mind us talking about it, because obviously it's something that he's been very vocal about, because it is something that Amazon have done and it's massively restricted his business. Now, again, not directed at Ahmed, but what I'm grateful for, obviously, is it opens up the conversation, which I'm really grateful to Ahmed for being, so transparent as well. You know, that takes a lot of guts to do that, especially when you're a community leader. That's why I was open with my suspension, why Matt's been open with his suspension. I know many at Amazon Guru that have been suspended that won't talk about it because they feel that it might impact on their guru-ness, but unfortunately
like that.
It doesn't. Always look for the people that are transparent about those type of things, because it gives us more experience as well and helps us understand certain things. And Matt had a horrible experience with his suspension, caused him to make some big changes. My suspension, albeit only 8 days, I made a video about it on this very channel, so make sure you check it out. We'll do some sort of magic. If you're watching this in the replay, we'll put the video in there. I was down for 8 days. Overall, when the final tot up was made, it actually cost us about 10 grand in terms of lost sales, in terms of stopping business, because when you're suspended, I can't keep buying for the business. I can't keep moving forward, but I still have to pay my staff, and they're not working for X amount. Then not only that, you're a lot more cautious. So what we mean by that is, like, I didn't go straight back in to spending 5 grand a day on stock. A day after suspension, you're more cautious, so it stops the growth of your business. So the measured amount was 10 grand, but actually, to be perfectly honest, it probably cost us a lot more, because I think we were cautious for probably 2 months afterwards, which had, I'm a firm believer,
helps your confidence, doesn't it?
Knocks your confidence massively. But at the same time, I have other income streams, not only on Amazon, but outside of Amazon, not only through selling, but other areas like the Hive, coaching, things like that. So whilst it was upsetting, I didn't lose a lot of sleep over it. There was, a couple of, took me a bit longer to get to sleep, and probably earlier waking up, because it's on your mind. But it certainly caused me a period of time where I couldn't be productive during that period of time, because it's on your mind. You're frustrated, you're annoyed. My suspension was completely not my fault. I was connected to a seller in these Facebook communities that I have no connection to at all. So it unavoidable, but also unfair. So there's lots of different emotions. But what I'm trying to say is, we all go through these periods of time, because I've learned from having all of my eggs in one basket. It wasn't as devastating as it is for someone that doesn't have that all of their eggs in one basket. So you have to try and protect yourself as much as possible. Now, the best way to protect yourself is diversification. It's as simple as that. But at the same time, if you have got all one, because some people don't want to diversify, and that is okay. I don't want to force someone to do something just because I said you have to diversify, or Matt said you have to. But there's other ways that you can protect yourself, not from the event occurring, but potential, ruin of business, is by ensuring that your business can run if the tap gets switched off and for X amount of time. And the best way to be able to do that, and I saw someone, I saw someone say, when I mentioned about it, I said, make sure that you have 2 months worth of backup to cover your business, because in my opinion and experience, I think the majority of either payment issues, verifications, not suspensions, I'm not taking into suspensions, that's something else. The majority of verification issues take up anywhere between, I don't know, 30 to 60 days to resolve, anything up to about 8 weeks. So in my mind, that causes me to think I need to be able to pay my bills for 8 weeks if the tap gets switched off. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then someone said to me, well, you can't keep back 2 months worth of cash flow that you would spend on inventory. No. That's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about paying the bills while you sort it out, making sure that things that should get paid do get paid, that you don't get into trouble. If you can't pay back your credit cards or a charge card, like Matt quite rightly said, then you're going to get a mark on your credit report, and that's going to have a much longer impact. So think about these different types of things. So Matt, what are the things that would you expect to cover? Because like I said, I don't think there's many people that have more commitments in a business than you do. You have physical staff, you have vans, you have warehouses. Tell us all the things that you would need to cover in your business in terms of financial responsibility.
we only, I'll be honest, we only have a month of reserve, but that we
Because
have other
so
income
much.
streams. Well, we have other income streams. So yeah, again, I think like you said, if you don't want to diversify, which is perfectly fine, then 2 months of cash in reserve is perfectly sufficient to weather any kind of storm. A month with diversification, I think, is good. So obviously you've got to consider your rent. The rent's a bit of a funny one, because generally speaking, you could probably push that a month if you needed to. Most landlords will be receptive of that. So you can generally get away with the rent for a little bit. But you need, obviously, staffs need paying, so you need to have the bare minimum 2 months of payroll. You need to have electricity and gas. They're going to, them direct debits are going to keep coming out, so you need to make sure you've got enough money to cover those. The big one is the hard one, is any kind of loans you've got. You need to make sure you've got a month's worth of payments to cover the repayments, because if all of your money stops, then how are you going to pay back them loans? And the big impact with them is if you start missing payments, that will impact your credit file, like you said, Natalie, and then that's going to lead to a downward spiral anyway. Because even if you do get unsuspended within the time frame, you probably will struggle to get credit again within the next year or 2 years, because you've got this big black mark of defaults on payments. Again, risk mitigation. People ask me about credit and charge cards. Always go for credit card. Risk mitigation. Credit card only has a minimum payment, normally 10%. Charge card's got to be paid back in full. So if you've got a credit card, you need 10% of your available credit as a reserve. So if you've got a 50k credit limit, you need 5k, because that will ensure you can cover your minimum repayment. But again, survival. Yes, you're gonna pay interest. It's gonna hurt you, but it's not gonna kill you.
You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get
You're
hurt.
gonna get hurt, but you're not gonna get killed. That's the difference. If you miss your minimum payment, they'll probably suspend your card, completely stop it, and that credit card could literally be your lifeline, because it might have available credit that you're using to cover your overheads to push it down another month. So yeah, minimum repayments on all of your loans and all of your cards in a month as a cash reserve. Anything else? I think most other costs in most businesses are sort of variable. So obviously the postage and things like that, you obviously might need if you have it on an account. But generally speaking, you will pay up front for a lot of your fees and your postage. So those are generally quite variable. So
big
mainly
one for me, wages is obviously discussing that, because you do have to remember that yes, you're devastated, and this is you and your impact. But one of the things that terrifies me, Jade said Amazon terrifies me, and it does terrify me as well. But what terrifies me more is people reliant on me and not being able to fulfill. We have a number of staff that work for us physically and virtually. And the thing is, just because somebody works for you virtually, I'm going to talk about in particular, they terrify me not being able to, pay them more than anything else, because generally, with the greatest of respect, they lived hand to mouth in a lot of cases. And the thought of not being able to pay someone just absolutely terrifies me. That's the biggest thing that terrifies me. I have been in a position where I have to let people go because my business cannot afford them anymore, and it's awful. It's absolutely awful having to shut down a business because of, whatever reason. I have been in that position. I have had people crying at me because of that situation, and it's awful. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And that is the stuff that makes me not sleep at night. So, making sure that you can pay your staff. I would rather, yes, you include your own wages in it as well, but I would rather go much without and make sure my staff get paid, as opposed to, I don't get paid. So that's a big one for me as well. But the other thing I would say, just in this scenario as well, if this does happen to you, don't be scared. So what I mean by that is, don't be scared to pick up the phone. So in a lot of the cases, official business loans, credit cards, things like that, understand that businesses have glitches in them. So HMRC, the VAT man, all of these people, never be scared to pick up the phone and tell them the truth of what's happened, because you will be amazed at how helpful these companies are.
HMRC particularly are actually really helpful.
Amazing. And the VAT service people at HMRC, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. They have specialist people in their team that they may be able to give you some advice, something that you hadn't thought of. They will certainly be able to give you leeway. Anyone that thinks, I've got a VAT bill due on the 12th, and if I couldn't pay it, I'd be ringing them up right now, and I would be saying, this is the situation. I wouldn't lie. I would tell the truth. I wouldn't try and blame anyone. I would say, this is something outside of my control. I anticipate this will happen at this point. And like I said, don't get me wrong, they're not, you get a couple of passes with these type of things. If you're doing it every month, don't expect them to be lovely. They will turn. But what we're saying is, don't be scared to pick up the phone. Communicate with these financial, and the bigger the company, generally the better as well, in how that they would treat you. Don't try and lie. Tell them the truth. Say what's happened, and they will work with you. Believe it or not, it's part of the financial ombudsman rules. They have to work with you. They have to offer you solutions. They can't just come in your house and take your TV. They can't do that. They have to work with you to find resolutions. So please don't be scared of picking up the phone and speaking to people. And should I, I dare the wrath of the crowd, essentially, by saying, if you have the option to talk to Amazon, do the same as well. Because talking to a real person on Amazon, believe it or not, can be such especially the account. I actually think the account health team are pretty good in Amazon UK.
Yeah.
I can't speak for other parts, but I actually think they're pretty good in terms of the people that you pick up the phone and talk to. So if that call me now button is always there, always hit it and always speak to someone. Like Mark said earlier, if you follow the rules and you've got nothing to hide, then there's no issues there whatsoever. Always communicate with that. We've had a couple of comments, Matt, so I'm just going to jump into those.
Absolutely.
So Karina has said, should we have a different email address for Amazon accounts for US, EU? If we use the same address and a suspension occurs, does it affect both accounts?
So no, you won't be able to use separate emails anyway, because it would be classed as two accounts. So you wouldn't be allowed to do that anyway. You'd have to have one email for the accounts. And the answer is, it depends. So there's no clear answer as to yes or no. It depends on the reason for the suspension. So the thing is, for a lot of the typical kind of issues you experience, sort of IP claims, parallel import claims, counterfeit claims, generally they don't carry across. If someone raises a claim on the UK, it doesn't always carry across. It doesn't mean you'll get suspended on all your accounts. If it's something more serious, like a violation of services, or if it's something like verification in a way that it affects all the accounts, they would suspend all the accounts anyway. So yeah, it can affect them, but certainly for what the most common reasons for suspension, it won't necessarily mean you get suspended on one marketplace. And therefore all of them get suspended. You know, they're all treated independently of each other in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. You may also be talking about something we've seen, which I actually think did it affect you as well, Matt? I think it affected you, it affected Ahmed, it affected Luke Dugan, a few other people whose seller accounts got suspended under the same email that they had on their buyer accounts. Their buyer account got suspended. So I would have a different email address to your seller account,
secondary backup,
and the secondary backup. So that's a different thing, because obviously that's when everybody kind of freaks out when they see that one, because it looks like your seller account is suspended when actually your buyer account has been restricted, but you've used the same email, so you can't get into your seller account. So this is why we always recommend having that secondary access. So we've done it for years. So give yourself secondary access via another email address that you can always get overall access to any of your accounts for.
Yeah, it's not something that person directly affected us, but something we now implemented since, again, one of the benefits of the community. We're not perfect, happy to admit it. I didn't have a secondary email up. I saw what happened to Luke Dugan, and the first thing I did was set a secondary email up.
Yeah. We've always accessed all of our accounts via secondary access, but that's because we have access to multiple accounts. So it's the safe thing to do, but it's also, it's a sensible thing to do anyway as well if you don't have access to multiple accounts.
Yeah.
Linda says, my account's currently going through a payment verification and selling services have temporarily been removed with all stock currently inactive. In addition, I've had an email saying if they aren't switched back to active, all stock will be returned to me. No one can tell me how long this verification will take. Now, that's interesting, Linda, actually, because normally for a verification, you can still normally sell, but you can't normally disperse. So it's unusual the fact that they've blocked selling services as well. Like I said, they normally just block disbursement. So have you actually spoken to someone? If not, I would definitely pick up the phone and speak to them and just check that there's nothing else nefarious on the account that is stopping the inventory. Is there a potential suspension due to some sort of inventory issue or something like that? I mean, it could be that they're just being a-holes and giving you a full-on block of verification. But I will, I would definitely pick up the phone and be relentlessly speaking to someone here. Use that managing director at amazon.co.uk email address, just to follow up, say that you've spoken, presumably you've opened cases. I would just make sure that you are relentlessly kind of trying to get hold of someone for clarification for what the issue actually is. Now, you can't keep ringing them every 5 minutes of every day. Generally, something has to be closed down and resolved before they'll start another conversation. But just I would never personally just rely on what Amazon told me, because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And I wouldn't be so much worried about the fact that they're saying the inventory will return to you. So like I said, the reason why this is a little bit strange is normally a payment verification would not have that. It sounds like a suspension, like a deactivation, because stock only gets returned to you on a deactivation. So I think you need to do some further clarification here, of what's actually going on. Do you have BuyBook Pro? If so, have you got the suspension safeguard? I know Sean's asked a question about, the legal services, which we'll come on to in a moment. If you have, I would get in contact with them. Also, drop Anne Williams a message at Get Unsuspended. I think the email address is help@getunsuspended.co.uk or .com. I'd maybe have a conversation with her, because the language of what you've put there indicates to me that's a bit extreme for a verification. So is there something nefarious hidden in the account that maybe is causing that? So I would definitely find out a little bit more, but obviously, hopefully you'll get that resolved as quickly as possible. But yeah, never take what Amazon say, directly from one person on face value. You need to get that verified from, a few different sources for sure. But I would definitely speak to an expert. So that kind of takes me into Sean's question, because again, when we see in the communities, when these sort of things happen, you see services being offered, for legal services and that type of thing. It's like a retainer that you pay. Bible Pro has its suspension safeguard. They have various different levels of it. So I don't necessarily think that will it resolve it any quicker. I'm a firm believer in, unless they've got people in on the inside, it takes as long as it takes as long. But you will get it resolved quicker. You will get it resolved quicker by them having more experience of dealing with the situation.
Yes.
That's the way that I see it.
That's the main difference, isn't it? They will word things in a way that Amazon likes, whereas you may not. And that can be the main thing. I think just a quick one on this in terms of escalating to legal. Depends how aggressive they are. I think generally speaking, if you do have like an IP issue, best thing to do is appeal it with Amazon first of all on the appeal. 9 times out of 10, if your paperwork's fine, it will go away. Then I would say if you're struggling with that, Amazon is being a bit stupid, because I've seen Amazon reject perfectly valid paperwork before for no good reason. Just the person doesn't understand it is usually what happens. Then I speak to the brand in a very polite tone. Often just opening a conversation is enough to get an IP claim removed. Even if you say, look, I won't sell this again, just let me sell off the rest of my stock, things like that. That is usually the best way to get an IP claim removed. And then if you're not having success, then you kind of go in heavy with the legal approach. But sort of sending out legal letters straight away, I feel, is a bit aggressive and can actually harm. It won't harm you from an Amazon point of view, but I think it can harm your potential relationship with brands, because they may then go, well, if these guys sending us legal letters, we'll look at other listings he's got. A lot of Amazon is almost flying under the radar. You want to kind of get in, get out, don't make a fuss, don't make a scene. Getting lawyers involved is the exact opposite of that. So it depends. Is the honest answer. It depends on the situation, depends on what it is. I think in answer to your question, yes, it would speed something up simply because they will go straight to the nuclear button straight away, and they'll probably word it in the right way. But whether that causes long-term damage between you and the brand, I don't know.
Yeah. Just as an added hot tip alert, if we were fancy and this was on a replay, you'd see like some mad graphics going on with but we're not that fancy, I'm afraid. We're getting there. We're embracing our guru-ness a bit more. So hot tip alert: if you're dealing with any type of account health issue and it evolves in any type of communication to account health, and it's like a restriction, a deactivation, a plan of, you're appealing something, you want something removed, violation, that type of thing, make sure your communication is less than 2 minutes in readable format. So I learned this during my suspension, is they have KPIs. So if they cannot read all of the information that you have sent them in under 2 minutes, regardless of how good the opening section is, and you've put at the end that all of how you're going to fix everything, then they will just hit reject automatically. Timer, 2 minutes, reject. So make sure that you put all of the most relevant, important information at the top of the communication, and you go through, read it out loud or in your head to yourself, or ask your partner or someone to read it and put a little timer on it as well. And then obviously give a little bit of thing, because, I'm a much faster reader than that. So, be a little bit objective. Now, like I said, whether or not they are that strict in terms of 2 minutes, it exactly goes on, but it should be 2 minutes or thereabouts, and be clear and concise. Put your lawyer head suit, put your lawyer head on and put your lawyer suit on. What I mean by that is lay it out in a way as though it's, evidence. Okay. If you were prosecuting a case, lay it out in how it could be easily read and understood in that period of time. If you are attaching evidence in other, attachments, make sure you refer to that. Letter of authority, attachment number 1. Okay, make that clear. And what it states in that. Okay. So you are like putting everything in that they have no excuse to reject because they don't have that information as well. So it's really, really important to make sure that you understand these little kind of things. So hopefully that's a top tip that will be useful for someone. We've got lots of questions in. I don't know if we're going to get to generic today. Unfortunately, I will tell everyone what her thoughts are on generic and removing listings before we go. I promise. Norshan has set up about secondary access. That's going to have to be like a different thing. Maybe we can pop a post into the group. But when setting up secondary access to Amazon account, can you? Oh, that's just a question. Yes, you give yourself secondary access. That's what you do. You're giving yourself secondary access.
So maybe if you've got a business email and a personal email, you set up your personal email as access to the account, just so you can get in. Is there somebody else that can use the same phone number? I believe so, although it may take a few attempts to get it to register. If you've got a landline and a mobile number, maybe use one of each or two business number or something. I think using 2 numbers is easier than one. Oh, another thing actually on that as well is that there was a glitch a few weeks ago in terms of getting into people's accounts through the OTP. Just reminded me. So make sure you set Google Authenticator up because that's a surefire way to get into your account as well. Where you get a text, there's been issues where people haven't been getting text or it's saying the texts are invalid. So use Google Authenticator and the text. Again, you're mitigating your risk, easier to get into your account.
Yeah, let me just show you if no one knows. It's like a little app that you put on your phone. So I don't get the text because the reason I don't do the text version is if you're abroad and sometimes it gets blocked or something like that. If you go into that little app, I can't because all my accounts are in there. But if we go into that little, it will have a different number for every single account that you have the authenticator code on it. So from that point of view, I actually think it's better. Like I said, sorry, Matt, I don't want to go against you, but I don't have the text sent. We go into the app so we can get the number as opposed to waiting for the number to come to you, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely do that. Have that in place as well. Yes, that is absolutely correct, Cindy. They don't talk. It's a very litigious country. They don't pick up the phone to each other like we do here. You get a letter. But watch out, the letters are fake as well. The one that I had a couple of weeks ago or a week ago or something like that, it was a fake. And I'll tell you how I found out it was a fake because it was quite funny. They sent it from what is perceived to be one of the biggest legal companies in the world. So the reason they do it, it's very clever. The reason they do it is so you cannot pin down whether it's fake or not. Because if I ring up this company and say, I've got a legal letter from this person, sorry, they didn't even have the name of the person about this subject, they're going to say, we've got 50,000 worldwide employees. There's no way I can track that down. But what they'd actually done is this legal company was associated with the Chinese company. And earlier on in the year, about May or June or whenever it was, they sold this company or disassociated it for a Chinese link or whatever. So therefore, the logo was the old logo that they put on this letter that was supposedly sent that week. Well, no, they'd made perfectly clear that this company had severed links with this company for a specific reason. So do you honestly think they're going to continue sending letters with that association of that logo on? Sorry, guys, you're going to have to get up a little bit earlier than that to and that means you need to get up at 4 o'clock to get that one past us. So always make sure you check. Like I said, the USA in particular is very litigious. So they do speak lawyer quite a lot in the US, but make sure you verify and you check everything. Comes back to picking up the phone, picking up that communication and speaking to someone for sure. We'll do something on secondary access. We'll put that in
Cindy's put the link in the comments anyway, so whoever needs it. Super Cindy's on it.
Yeah, she is on it for sure. Rejecting invoices this week on the basis they can't be validated. I've seen it twice where the supplier has seemingly sent an editable invoice rejected because lines weren't aligned and fonts were different. Supplier had converted a Word document to a PDF and left a squiggly bit. Yeah, screenshot is always better than sorry, not screenshot. What the best thing to do is ask them for a printable invoice that you can print off and take a picture of. I always think that's the best format to be able to send it in, because then Amazon know it's real. But do not write on the invoice to say like an arrow or anything like that, because they can really take that as like you are manipulating, you're manipulating an invoice. And forged documents, manipulation of documentation, that can get you into real big trouble on Amazon.
Yeah, really big. Yeah.
So yeah, best thing to do, like I said, just in your appeal, refer to an attached picture of an invoice and tell them what it is and why it's real. Okay, that, like, I think break it down as though you're speaking to a 5-year-old. That's but don't do a Natalie. Don't go into too much detail that the 5-year-old gets confused. Facts only. Facts only. For anyone that can't get, we've got some IP issues. David's saying here, been trying to get them rejected. There is an option on the YouTube channel, which is about suspensions and getting IP claims removed. So make sure you watch that video. It is a way that you can get them removed without appealing them. But Matthew is absolutely correct. The best way is to try and get them removed. But if you are in a situation where it is like you're stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea, and it is potentially impacting on your account health, and you want to get it removed, you can use this option. But ultimately, the first port of call is to legitimately try and get the complainant to remove them. Oh, and a quick one. Sorry, I'll let you carry on.
So I was going to say, you need to be careful with counterfeit. Can we just distinguish between intellectual property and counterfeit? So intellectual property, you can use that option where you basically accept the intellectual property's been thing. You won't be able to sell the ASIN, but you'll be able to remove the stock. If it's counterfeit claim, you must fight them, because otherwise you will have a mark on your account that you've been selling counterfeit goods. And also, if you did accept liability, Amazon would then destroy your product in FBA. So if it's a counterfeit claim, you should always fight the counterfeits. We're just talking about sort of parallel import claims, IP violations. You can accept them and kind of move on with your life, and they will drop off your account. When it's a counterfeit claim, I would always suggest you fight a counterfeit claim and try and get it removed as hard as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoever's put this, where are we?
Is it the £60 one?
No. Sorry, the one above that. Brian, brilliant tip here. This is something phenomenal tip. Whenever you send the information in, okay, then hit that call me now button and speak to someone on the phone and say, I've just submitted this. Let's talk through it, and try and get to them to resolve it on the phone or tell you anything that you might be missing. So we did that as part of our suspension. Actually, that was something we did. And that was when we actually found out who the seller was that we were connected to. They gave us the information at that point. It was like, I can't tell you, but it starts with, and if you look here, you will be able to find it. So it was, we were like, but could it be a V? Could it be this? Could it be that? Could it be that? And they were like, no, it's not that. And I was like, could it be that? No, it's not that. Is it that? Yes. you know, so they're not being obtrusive, they're not being awkward. There's just certain things they can say and certain things there isn't. But that's a phenomenal tip, and one I'd actually forgotten about, to be fair. So submit the information and then hit the call me now button and speak to someone on the phone. You've got a good chance of getting that done. Had a rights owner charge me 60 quid. Is that it? What? Brian again, to remove IP claims. In the end, Amazon overturned them, and a cheeky bugger.
Could you not report them for a beauty brand registry for that?
Well, they may not necessarily be a brand registered owner. You don't have to have a brand registry to report those issues. Yes, it is hard to get account health on the phone, but you've just got to keep trying. It's random. I don't know if it's a little bit like, sometimes it must be to do with the weight of the physical staff that they've got available to be able to do it. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't. So you've just got to keep going with it, keep going with it. I feel that sometimes, like, if you use it and you use it well, they give the button to you more. I don't know, but that's probably just me, you know, just saying that. But right, so very quickly before we go, just to talk about the generic issue, we're not going to be able to talk about it as much as I thought, but just to kind of put people's minds at rest. Essentially, I've seen people saying, you know, do this, remove that, you know, whatever. I want to talk in a little bit more detail about the generic issue and why it's happened. It's to do with Amazon, you know, making it an official brand at the start of this year. I think it was January or something. And this is why these incidences are happening. Now, generic is something that shouldn't be feared, but it should be feared if it's misused. Okay, that's the way I see it. So as far as I'm concerned, I know when I've created listings using generic, I've created them in the right way. Okay, and it's been as terms of service at the time. Now, if they've been created 2 years ago, terms of service may have shifted since then, so they may no longer be within what Amazon perceives terms of service now. Because that is, I know we said we don't hate on Amazon too much, but that's one thing that annoys me about Amazon is we've always lived in the light on Amazon. But what they don't do is when they implement these sort of changes, I think they should implement them from like now, anything from now on. But they don't, because their business doesn't allow that. So they have to go retrospectively. They have to go all the way back to the time when it was right, you know, and it was okay to do that because that was the option to do it at that point. So it gets kind of sucked up. But the main issue here is coming from how something is represented on a listing. Okay. And there is a difference between how you represent and you used the term generic at the right time that was acceptable and how you can use generic now. Okay, so I want those lines, you know, to be firmly separated at the start. So because I am someone that has taught people to use generic, but at the time that was the option, it was available, it was correct, and we always deal with GS1 and that type of thing. So what's happening now is some of those things. Now I stand by the listings that I've created under generic are still acceptable in Amazon's eyes. And the only way that they will get picked up and there being an issue is if the brand takes exception to that. The way that I've set them up for me, Amazon should not take issue with them because everything should match correctly. It's not misbranded. And you know, all of these different types of things. So to cut it short, essentially, because I can't go into it as much detail as I want to, is the way that Amazon is at the moment, and it's Q4, and Q4 does crazy things to Amazon. Like I said, we see this big increase of sales, and with big increases of sales in Amazon's eyes, it makes them more cautious. And if they shoot first and ask questions later, they like go full like shooting everyone at this point. They're going to be more cautious at this point. So what I would say is If you are someone that is listing on other people's creations of generic, i.e. one that you did not create yourself, it may be prudent for you to sell through your inventory and delete it and move on. Okay, simple as that. If you have created the listing yourself and it has a GS1 barcode and your brand and manufacturer matches the brand and manufacturer on the listing, then, and you know that, I would feel comfortable, and it's not misbranded, so the title is represented in the right way, then I would have no issues in continuing to sell on those. But the chance of the majority of the audience that are watching this, you are going to fall into the former, where there's a good chance you are selling on other people's, generated generic listings. So if that is the case, then I would sell through very quickly. But at the same time, I saw someone say, tank your price and sell through really, really quick. Well, do you know what? There is no bigger alert and a big white flag that you are, or red flag that you're waving to Amazon than a price drop. If you drop something in price on Amazon, it forces it will force a bot or something to look at your listing, generally from a pricing point of view. But while the bot is there, it may look at some other stuff as well. So, the way that I see it is keep your cool. Okay. Sell through, maybe lower the price a lot, but don't tank the price, because like I said, that will create some sort of alert to Amazon. And you don't want to, it's a bit like jumping up and waving your arms around when you're hiding behind the bush when the serial killer's walking around. You don't want to do it. You want to make sure that you're not drawing attention to yourself. Sell through, move on, delete from inventory. Normally, I would say wait and see if you get any returns or anything like that whatsoever. Normally, I would say don't delete it until then. As soon as the last one's sold, delete. And if you end up losing a few, a few products that get returned or whatever, and they go into stranded and get destroyed, not an issue whatsoever. Okay, so that's the kind of advice. I'm not sure about GTN exemption at the moment. So there's a way that you can check if someone has a GS1 or a GTN exemption. And I actually did another video. Look at me being so helpful all the time on this free channel. There's actually another video about how you can check mismatch brands and mismatch codes. GS1, we'll pop that one in the comments as well. So you can check on something like Buybot Pro or SAS whether or not something has got a GS1 barcode or whether it's got a GTN exemption. Now, with a GTN exemption, you are less likely to get picked up because there is no physical database for them to check. But at the same time, there is also no database, so that could alert them. And that in that case, it will probably come up as a misbranded potential issue. And I'm going to jump off the fence here. And I want someone, by the way, to correct me if this is not the case and they've seen anything different. But the only Section 3 deactivations I've seen related to mismatched brands are ones that people are selling on other people's products and not anything that they've created themselves. So that's what I've seen. But obviously, I have a very limited access to the whole of the Amazon communities. But from what I can see, the issue is coming from jumping on other people's listings as opposed to being in control of that listing yourself. But having said that, do I advise anyone to create listings under generic anymore? Absolutely not, and have not been doing so for months now. So if you are still creating listings under generic, regardless of what I've just said there about you should be okay if you're creating them yourselves, and it will only be if the brand has exception to them and they are represented in the right way, stop doing it. It's not what generic is for anymore. It is not what generic is for anymore. There are many other options, legitimate options within Amazon terms of service that are ways that you can create your listings moving forward. So, make sure you're doing it correctly. So, like I said, different action points there if you are creating your own versus selling on other people's. If you're selling other people's, sell through your stock, and if you are that person, if you don't want to risk it, take the listing down, remove the listing from your inventory and have the stock removed back to you. I'm not against that. I do think there's a lot of panic about it and I think it's a bit of project fear. So from that point of view, but if you do not want to take the chance, I don't want anyone saying to me, my account got suspended because you told me not to sell the stock. No, this is all on you guys. You got to make the decision yourself on this. And I think I worked out what the connection is. But like I said, I can only go on based on the evidence of our own experience, speaking to other sellers, seeing what people put in communities and things like that. So please, please, please do your own due diligence and make your own decisions on this for sure. So, Josh, yes, there is a way to detect which are all of your generic listings in Amazon, which I'm going to go through on Hive Live tonight. But I actually think this is information that should be available to all. So obviously the Hive Livers are going to get it first. And then the following day, I'm going to make a video to show everyone how to do it and put it in this group, because I think there are certain things that shouldn't be behind paywalls. I mean, the guys get to see me do it live in the group, the Hive, tonight. But I will make sure a video goes on this YouTube channel this week and showing people how they can identify that. That's information that should be available for all, definitely. Right, you talk now.
It's your area of expertise, yeah. A quick question. Not generic, but I've had a few bundle listings which have become inactive and have become private label now. Some same ASIN, same bundle size, different picks. Is this permissible?
It's a hijacked listing. Someone's hijacked, the listing, I'm afraid. So there's not a lot. You can get hijacked listing returned to its original state or your brand, providing you can prove you're the brand owner. But if they've gone and you cannot, so like if it's a 2-pack of Mars bars, with a spoon, that you're not going to recover that listing back. If someone has managed to hijack that and put it on theirs, because you can't prove that you're the brand owner of Mars. You can prove you're the brand owner of the spoon, but it all comes down to the more you do something in the right way, the more you've got a better chance of recovery, as opposed to, but yeah, if you're doing that and or a branded something or another, that's not relevant to the product or anything, then no, it's just going to be gone. Unfortunately, it's hijacking. So in order to get it back, you would need to prove to Amazon that you are indeed the brand owner of that product, and that involves showing evidence of sale outside of Amazon, i.e. your own branded website, brand information, blah blah blah, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, unfortunately, you just got to wave those goodbye. But learn how to create listings properly, and as per Amazon terms of service. And if that's happened, just create your own listing if it's admissible to do so within the world of Amazon bundles or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. I think we'll wrap up there, shall we?
I think we should. So yeah, we should. If you are a Hive member tonight, we are like I said, that's exactly what I'll be doing. I'll be showing you guys how to identify any potential generic. We'll be talking a bit more about generic in that Hive Live tonight at 7 o'clock. We know how to party in the Hive. We talk about very interesting and sexy subject. So yeah, we will be going live with that tonight. So I hope that's helped, guys. I mean, like I said, just to clarify, there's no magic bullets for any of this, I'm afraid. It's about mitigation. It's about protecting yourself as much as you possibly can. But diversification,
Yeah.
You're never going to
You've just got to de-risk it. You can't remove the risk. But it's the same with this business as it is with any other business. Every business has risks. There's different risks in this business than there are in other ones. And the aim of the game is to just de-risk it as much as possible. Equally, you could be, I suppose you can go completely too far the other way, where you don't make any money because you just spend the whole time de-risking it.
Exactly.
It's got to get a balance, but I think there's not having everything in one platform, all your money, no spare cash is the way to go. Just think about it. Think maybe buy a bit less, spread your risk over multiple product lines, sell in multiple marketplaces, have a cash reserve, and then everything will be a lot easier going forwards. Just trying to de-risk it.
Don't know if easy's maybe less stressful.
Yeah.
And this is it, but then we go, and Matt's absolutely right, but all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So you do have to have that element of risk as well. I was talking to one of the Hive members earlier, and we were talking about purchasers and bringing a purchaser into the business and how it's risky. But what they can do is sometimes it can be a good level of risk because they broaden your horizons and they bring a risk that you wouldn't have, or that time where you have a purchaser and they say don't buy the product, but your experience and your gut tells you to buy the product. So that human element, we can't take that away. You do have to create, you have to make risk, you have to have that, there's no doubt about it. But what is it you have to do? You have to find the balance of everything. That's what it's going to be.
Absolutely.
For sure. Right, guys, we are back. So we will see you next week at 1 o'clock. I think I have a guest with me next week. I wrote all the schedule out. Now I've totally forgotten who's on it. So I think I do have a guest next week, but obviously I shall let you know in due course. Thanks for your patience while we rebranded. If you do talk about us in other groups, hopefully all nice, unless you're in some people's groups, it might not be. But if you do talk about us in groups, if you wouldn't mind referring to us as Beyond the Buy Box from now, because obviously that is the new name, new rebranded name moving forward. And obviously we love an abbreviation. So from now on, we are not going to be Never Mind the Buy Box as in NMTBB. We are now going to be BTBB. Can't believe I got that right. I think I did. So we love an abbreviation. So we shall stick with that. Have a great week, guys. And if you are in the Hive, we'll see you at 7 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, maybe BBB is better. I would call it BBB.
Oh, might get confused with BBP though. Bible Pro.
Oh, BBB. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I think too many abbreviations. We didn't think about that one at the time. It was a good plan at the time. Anyway, take care, everyone.
No worries. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.